Hello, this is Dinah Lane from the Harwich Channel, here with Michael Locke from the Harwich Conservation Trust and Connor O'Brien as
Hi,
well.
Dinah.
So nice to see you both.
Thanks for having us on again.
It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
So, Mike, I know you want to talk about the new project that's just begun, the eco restoration.
Yes, gosh,
Yeah.
right on the heels of the recently completed
Yes.
Coldbrook Eco Restoration Project,
You're
right
going.
there on Bank Street, thanks to the partnership of so many, including the town of Harwich. Now, as folks drive by Headwaters Drive, right near the entrance, opposite the entrance to the Cape Tech, they'll see eco restoration in action.
Yeah.
With the Hinckley's Pond Herring River Headwaters Eco Restoration Project. And with that map that you see, there are two locations where that eco restoration will be unfolding. One that I just mentioned, again, opposite Cape Tech at the corner of Pleasant Lake Ave, also known as Route 124, and Headwaters Drive, is a retired bog area that the trust acquired from the Jenkins family about 4 years ago. And the importance of acquiring that land, just as background for everybody, was that we wanted to protect the water quality, the health of Hinckley's Pond as the main source water also for the Herring River that you see flows all the way down to Nantucket Sound. And soon, river herring are going to be migrating up into Hinckley's Pond and the spawning ponds to the north, Long Pond and Seymour's Pond. Anyways, that land was acquired. If it wasn't acquired, there would have been a subdivision along Headwaters Drive and even a structure possibly built opposite the entrance to Cape Tech. That would have really interfered with the potential health problems of the pond that historically have been there with algae blooms. We want to reverse that trend, and also would have interrupted the beautiful views that everybody enjoys while driving down Pleasant Lake Ave and also the Cape Cod Rail Trail. So there we go. There's the Cape Cod Rail Trail. That's bordered on each side by the property that was preserved by Harwich Conservation Trust through the Jenkins family. Very nice of the Jenkins family to give us a chance. Now,
Beautiful.
again, a little more background. Why are these cranberry bogs being retired by these hardworking farmers? And they're looking for ways to exit the industry because off-Cape bogs, much larger off-Cape bogs in the Midwest and even in Canada, even though we love Canada, it's driving down prices. The oversupply is driving down prices, and so local farmers are. It's harder to make ends meet, and so they're looking for ways to exit the industry and do so gracefully. And one of the ways is to preserve their land with local land trust.
It's very wise.
It is. So we have this retired bog, and we'd like to enhance the wildlife habitat diversity, the visitor experience, and of course the water quality, like we said, of Hinckley's Pond and Herring River. And so now there's eco-restoration happening in partnership with our engineering design consultant, Interfluve, and the eco-restoration construction firm Sumco, both of which worked on the Coldbrook project. We're working in partnership with the Association of Preserved Cape Cod. And it's funded by a few federal grants, one from NOAA, a couple from EPA, some very generous funding from the Brown family, who own the retired bog on the opposite side of the pond, which is also part of this eco-restoration. So it's just beginning.
That's great.
And so every time you drive by, you're going to get sort of a look right out your car window as to the progress. And we'll keep folks updated.
Yeah, so I have a question about the federal funding. Are you assured of that at this point, or are you still questioning whether you may need to find other
Is
sources?
this real wood, Dinah? Is this? We're going to knock on some wood. So just a little background. It was frozen, as a lot of federal funding was by executive order back in January.
Yeah.
We were almost ready to go, so it paused the project.
I see.
As we and people across the country and across the world were trying to figure out what's next.
Yes.
And then the federal funding was made accessible again. And then we were again, put on pause by the risk of a government shutdown.
Oh, yes.
Which didn't occur, which was good. And now we feel confident enough to continue with the eco-restoration. Yeah, so we're keeping our fingers crossed that the federal funding through bipartisan support last year was approved will continue flowing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we will certainly hope for the best because it sounds like a fabulous project.
Oh, it's fantastic for the community and the region.
Of course, yeah. So spring is here.
It is.
And
Yes.
if spring is here, herring must not be far behind.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the herring run and that whole process, Connor?
Sure. Yeah, as Mike mentioned, herring are probably starting to make their way up the Herring River in Harwich. And soon they'll make their way all the way up to, and here's a beautiful picture of them in the Herring River. They'll be making their way up to Hinckley's Pond. So the Division of Marine Fisheries has an electronic counter for herring, and herring are, just a little background, they're an anadromous fish species, which means that they live part of their lives in saltwater and part of their lives in freshwater. And herring, they do their spawning in freshwater and can spend up to a year as herring fry, the little fish, in freshwater, and then they go out to estuaries and then eventually make their way in giant schools out into the ocean. And then when it's time for spawning again, every 3 to 5 years, they come back to freshwater. So these herring have a very important ecological and cultural role, but in the past decades, the herring populations have plummeted. But policies have been put in place to increase the population of the herring, and part of the research that goes into creating these policies is the counting of herring as they come in to spawn. So anyway, there's an electronic counter at Bell's Neck put in by the Division of Marine Fisheries, and that counts herring as they make their way into West Reservoir. But further up north than West Reservoir, we don't have any other way electronically to figure out how many herring are getting into Hinckley's Pond, Long Pond, and Seymour Pond. And that's where our very dedicated herring count volunteers come in. Each year, I think it's been going on 12 years now, herring count volunteers have visited the herring ladder at Hinckley's Pond and counted herring as they go over from the Herring River into Hinckley's Pond. And that gives researchers an idea of how many herring are spawning there. So this year, again, the herring counters, in partnership with the Harwich Natural Resource Department and APCC, we will be having a volunteer herring count. The herring count started on April 1st, and it's a really great citizen science activity. And if folks we're still looking for spots to be filled in our volunteer herring count. So if folks are interested, they can visit our website and fill out our volunteer interest form, and I'll contact them and give them all the information they need. But these herring counters will visit the same time every week for a 10-minute count. So it's a short commitment, but it's a weekly commitment. And then take some environmental data and then submit that data to us, and then we'll submit it to APCC, and they will do some statistical modeling on it, and then that will go to the Division of Marine Fisheries, and they can make policy and improve their research on these important fish.
That's great.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So people need an interest and sharp eyes, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's it. And a few
very
minutes
short
a week.
period of time. Yeah.
In all weather.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Okay. Yes, because it has to be the same time.
That's the fine print.
It has to be the same time every week, right?
But it really is a great experience, even in that bad weather, because you get to visit Hinckley's Pond in a quiet location, and our counters they report what they see, and they
Mhm.
end up having these really amazing natural experiences.
Yeah.
Seeing osprey take herring out of the Hinckley's
Oh,
Pond,
wow. Yeah.
or night herons, or even eagles.
Yeah.
So it's and also sometimes dodging snapping turtles that make their way up onto the shore, and
There's a lot going on over there.
yes.
There
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. That's great. So the herring that we just saw on the picture there looked so large they looked like sharks. So can you give us a sense of exactly what size
They're as
They-
big
most
as
of
this
them are?
table.
Yeah.
No, they're not. No.
No, they're fairly small. They're maybe only about 12 inches.
Okay.
And but they when you're if you're going to look for them in the Herring River, they don't look like your typical freshwater fish. They're long and skinny and very streamlined. They're
Yeah.
designed for traveling these great distances across the ocean. And
Mm.
your typical bass kind of looks squat and fat and
Uh-huh.
good for sitting on the bottom of a pond. And herring look very different. So
Streamlined.
if folks
Yeah.
visit the Herring River and just want to look for herring, they'll be moving through for the next few months, and
Okay.
hopefully folks get a glimpse of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're beautiful fish. They
They
really
are,
look
for
they look
sure.
luminescent actually. So Mike, I know we have a very, very big event coming up very soon,
Yes.
and that is Meet Your Local Farmers, which we've talked about before, but it's about to take place.
It
So
is.
maybe you'd like to remind people what that's all about and when they need to be here to
Absolutely.
experience it.
We are so
I
excited.
understand there are live animals.
There are. That's the latest
Okay. That's
addition
great.
to
That's
this
great.
epic event. It's going to happen right here in the Harwich Community Center in the gym.
Fabulous.
Saturday, March 29th, 10 to 2, free, open to the public.
Amazing.
We're co-sponsoring it with the Orleans Farmers Market. Recall the history of the Meet Your Local Farmers event that we started back in about 09 in partnership with the Cape and Islands Farm Bureau. And they didn't quite have the bandwidth to partner again this year. So we reached out to Orleans Farmers Market, who's been around for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And they were eager to join. So they're actually bringing all their vendors here to Harwich as part of this Meet Your Local Farmers event. And there will be exhibitors from one end of the Cape to the other representing farms, and they're going to bring all their homegrown goodness. You see some fresh greens
Beautiful
here,
greens, yeah.
and there's local farms in Harwich like Pleasant Lake Farm and Cape Cod Lavender Farm right here in Harwich.
Yes.
And again, there's some lavender from one end of the Cape to the other right here for everybody to ask questions, meet your local farmers, and shake off that winter cabin fever, kick off the growing season.
Celebrate spring.
Celebrate spring, and like you said, there's even going to be some live farm animals. We hear that Scottish Highland cattle will make an appearance, perhaps a horse and a pig.
Right here in this building, amazing.
Right, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Can't wait to see it.
Oh my gosh, it's great. So again, details, harwichconservationtrust.org, our website, but Saturday, March 29th, 10 to 2, free, come on down.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This sounds all wonderful, and so good to see both of you. Thank you.
You too, Dinah.
Thanks,
you.
Dinah.
This is Dinah Lane from the Harwich Channel here with the Harwich Conservation Trust. Thank you.